You don't need every tool at Home Depot to build great projects, but I bet you have at least 5 that you regret. I know I do. So let's talk about what actually matters. Just like all of you, I spent a lot of time watching YouTube channels, trying to learn how to get better at woodworking. During that time, I saw all sorts of tools being used, and I thought to myself, I gotta have those tools too. Well, I don't know that that's the right way to go about it. And one very specific example that I use is my router table. I bought my router table for a specific project, and I also decided to make a video on it. So I used it enough to really learn how to use the tool and kind of understand it and see the pros and cons. And then I made my video, and frankly, I haven't used it since. Most of the time when I want to do a routered edge in something, I just use my hand router. The router table is just kind of big and gets in the way. Not really that useful to me. Now, that doesn't mean that I won't use it someday, but right now, I feel like I wasted my money on it. I mean, I had all these ideas of cool things I wanted to do. In my mind, the best use of a router table is for rail and stiles for cabinet doors. And someday I do plan to make some more of those. Right now it just collects dust until then. It's really easy to convince yourself that you need a tool and then, well, at least me anyway, and then obsess over that tool until I have it. And then once I have it and I try it, sometimes it just doesn't live up to the hype. And like I said, YouTube is great, but sometimes it convinces you that you need things that you don't really need. When starting out, it's hard to figure out the tools that you actually need. Do I need fancy jigs? Do I need a Festool domino? How about some high-end chisels or fancy scribing tools or wood scrapers? It's easy to convince yourself that you gotta have those before you can even start woodworking. And a lot of those tools are extremely overpriced. High-end brands, like I say, Festool is one that I tend to stray away from. I think there's other better options for less money. I don't like to be tied into one brand like that. And many of the times, a much cheaper version will do the trick. My Makita track saw was cheaper than the Festool. A lot of times, it's not efficient to buy a large multi-piece tool set of any kind because you're probably going to get a lot of tools that you're not going to use. You buy this 20-piece set and you use 2 of them. One thing that comes to mind here is my chisel set. I bought a really nice chisel set and it's sharp and it does a good job when I use it, but honestly, I rarely use chisels. That's not really something I needed. I almost felt like it was something I just needed to have on my wall to prove I was a good woodworker. And like I say, I use them sometimes, but a lot of times they just sit there unused and wasted. And I certainly didn't need as many as what came in the set. I probably could have lived with maybe just 2 or 3. So that was kind of a waste of money and something I probably didn't need. And the other thing is buying tools that solve problems you don't actually have yet. And I can't think of a specific thing that comes to mind. It's just important to focus on completing your project and the tools you need to complete your project. And if you know for sure you're going to need something for a project coming up, it makes sense to buy it. But try not to just buy something because you think someday you might need it. There are some tools that I figured out along the way that I actually did need. One of those tools that I still use a lot today is a circular saw. I have a table saw, I've got a track saw, and many times I just go for my circular saw. It's super versatile, and before I had a track saw or table saw, I still built all kinds of cool stuff. You can use a straight edge to cut a really straight line, and there's all sorts of jigs and fixtures to help you get by not having a track saw or table saw. You're going to need a drill. They're great for drilling holes, they're great for making pocket holes and using pocket hole screw joinery, and they're also great for running screws in. You're going to need a drill. You're going to need a sander. I suggest a random orbital sander. There's lots of options out there. You can spend a lot of money or less money. And I don't really think just starting out, it matters which one you buy. Just get something that works for you within your price range. You're going to need some measuring equipment, tape measures, maybe a speed square. I love my speed square still. I use it all the time. It is great for marking perpendicular lines, and you can even use it for checking to see if something is square. And you can also use it for lots of other things. It's just a great multi-tool. And I know you've heard this a million times, but you never have enough clamps. I really like those Irwin quick clamps. They're super cheap, and the short ones are perfect for a lot of things. However, if you get to the point where you're needing much longer clamps, the cheaper ones can be a little too flexible and not very stiff. So I think once you go to the longer clamps, it's worth maybe spending more money on them to get the stiffer clamps. Because at some point with a longer clamp, if it's not stiff enough, you can lose clamping pressure. I really like those clamps that you can buy that you can just attach to pipes. They're great because you can just buy different length pipe if you want a longer clamp. And they're also super stiff because the pipe is stiff. And they're really great because you can set your boards on the pipes, apply the glue to the edges, and then lay them down, clamp them up. I do this all the time, and I really like those clamps. Safety gear. Obviously, you need to protect your eyes, your lungs, your feet, your ears. The most important thing is that the safety equipment you choose is safe and comfortable. And I say comfortable because if it's not comfortable, you're going to find yourself not wearing it. One of my favorite pieces of safety equipment are my earmuffs. They're not that expensive, but they do have Bluetooth speakers inside of them. And I find myself wearing them even when I don't need them, just so I can listen to music. And last but not least, a workbench. It's great to get yourself off that concrete floor and save your knees. Not to mention, building a workbench can be a fun first project. Workbenches can be whatever you want them to be. I put dog holes in mine, and it's super versatile for clamping things down. I have a vise on the side for clamping things and holding things. I can just use some of those quick clamps to clamp things to my workbench to secure them. And you can set the thing to whatever height you want so it's comfortable for you to work. Personalize it however you want. Leave me a comment and let me know if there's any tool that you regret buying or can't live without. And if you're getting anything out of this video, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps out my channel and costs you nothing. Thanks. I think it's important to have some sort of internal checklist for yourself when buying a tool. A few questions that you can ask to decide whether or not this is a tool you actually need to buy. One question for me is, can this tool do multiple things? I don't like to get into any tools that are super specialized that I can only use for one thing. Chances are I'll never use it. Will I use this tool for at least 5 projects this year? If you're not going to use it quite a bit, is it really worth buying? Does it solve some sort of real pain? My old sander was leaving swirl marks in my finish and was very slow. So when I upgraded to my Mercaderos, I found that sanding was much faster, it was more comfortable in my hand, and I was getting a much better finish overall. So I do not regret spending the money on that. It was well worth it. If you're unsure if you want a tool, but you want to try it, maybe your friend has one you can borrow, or maybe you can get a Facebook Marketplace and buy a really cheap one, so you can get an idea of whether or not you even want the tool. It's way more expensive to buy something cheap and realize you really like it, but there's something that you don't like about that tool, and then have to spend way more on the next tool. When you know you want a tool, do your research and buy the right tool first. Learn from my mistakes. Pretty much everything I'm sharing in this video is something I learned over the years that I wanted you to know so you didn't have to make the same mistakes as me. Everything I'm telling you to do, I didn't do, and everything that I told you not to do, I did. You will learn along the way, and you can take my advice if you want, or you could not. I think the key thing here is to try to actually think about the tools that you need. I think the best way to do that is to actually start a project. And as you're working on the project and you find yourself hitting a roadblock, purchase the tool you need to get past that roadblock. Or even better yet, borrow the tool and see if you like that tool and if it's necessary, and then buy a better version later. So to summarize, start with projects, not tools. The right tool is the one that gets the project done. Buy tools for the project you have right in front of you, not the fantasy shop. It's totally fine to outgrow your tools. That's just part of the journey. You can do amazing things with surprisingly little. I'd love to hear your opinion and how you decide whether or not you need to buy a tool. And if you found this video helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys in the next one.